Here we go.
Hello and welcome back to Courtside. I'm Andrew Cohen, joined alongside by Sam Posman, Mike Randall, back from COVID. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Andrew,
Good.
actually.
Oh, I'm doing fantastic as well.
Never been better.
Glad to be back. Great day of basketball.
Oh, fantastic day of basketball.
I think the listeners are catching us on a high this week.
Oh, I would say so.
Just for some clarity reasons, we apologize for our absence. Mike had COVID. Andrew and I came in and recorded one.
One of the greatest episodes we've ever recorded, by the way.
Really the lost tapes of the Mayan era, as the kids are calling it. But
Computer issues
led to some faulty recording, and we had to skip a week.
But
Don't worry, you guys were spared of some abysmal basketball speak.
I believe I said
all-time abysmal basketball speak.
there was a line where I said something similar to Donovan Mitchell being Jalen Brunson with a higher usage rate, which felt a little disrespectful.
that feels disrespectful. Yeah, I was about to say.
But
I mean, one guy's about to go to the Western Conference Finals.
and one guy.
Don't go down this track. We don't have time.
But anyways,
Anyway, welcome back, Mike.
we have just concluded watching Suns Mavs Game 7 earlier today. Of course, Celtics. They hunted and killed the Bucks
before Mike did.
Ha, ha, ha.
Uh-huh.
You guys are real comedians.
Why don't we start there? Celtics Bucks. Main takeaway, Mike.
No. I'm letting you guys have your time in the sun first.
Okay,
I don't want to be negative Nancy over here before you guys have a chance to bask.
Sam.
The Boston Celtics are winning the NBA Finals. No, we're not. But we're going to do a hell of a job trying. So
You have as good a chance as anybody.
Who are the Celtics
Say it
losing
with
to?
your chest, man.
Who are the Celtics
They
going
look
to lose to?
phenomenal.
why would we lose to the Warriors?
I don't know. I don't think they would lose to the Warriors.
Warriors team. You could. I'm
Wait,
not gonna.
Are we finals favorites?
Yes.
Probably.
The Celtics realistically, the Celtics have been finals favorites if you ask all of the analytics people for months. But now it's like actually true.
But now, like, actual smart basketball people think that too.
Yeah.
So this is good. Okay.
Yes, winning Game 7 today was a good.
It was
a good thing.
It was good. It was
One might say it was a must-win.
It was a must-win game.
I've heard no team has ever come back in a series once they've lost Game 7.
It's true.
I've never heard of that happen
So-
either.
Now,
So it was a big win.
it was
crucial.
It was an enormous win. It was probably the most fun series I've had watching basketball in a long while. The level of play was fantastic, and for it to end the way it did, where the Celtics never led once until, obviously, they finished off the series 4-3. But they never led, but you also never felt like they were out of it. Kind of going, like after Game 5, there was a little bit of angst, but as soon as Tatum came out and did what he did in Game 6, it was all for naught. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Batman and Grant Williams and how it is. First of all, kudos to Grant Williams, who legitimately has a stake at. If we were to give the season a little revisionist history, the most improved title might go to him.
It would go to him.
It would go to him because this guy was unplayable. We've done it before. I think
Year 2 Grant was.
Year 2 Grant was arguably the worst player to put on a basketball jersey in that
Yeah.
season. And now I told Andrew at the start of this playoffs, if we're going to go far, we need a random Grant Williams game or a Peyton Pritchard game. Did I think they were going to happen at the same time in Game 7 against the reigning champions? No. But am I grateful that it happened? Yes. Am I grateful for Coach Bud's just absolute cluster F word of a defensive.
Don't worry, I'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let Mike handle that. But no. Kudos to Grant Williams. Kudos to Peyton Pritchard. Some big shots, even though I was screaming no until they went in. Jalen he did his job. Didn't forget how to play basketball. Tatum did the same thing. Was very good on the defensive end today. I'm excited to see this team when Rob Williams comes back, especially against Bam Adebayo. I think that'll be important. But as long as maybe we should do the same thing that we did with Giannis, where we just match Danny Tice's minutes when with Bam Adebayo is not on the court, because that was brutal.
Or just hope Rob Williams is back and you don't have to
I was
play
gonna
Daniel
say,
Tice.
you probably won't even have to worry about Tice. Maybe
right.
outside of Game 1, but
Yeah.
probably not going to be an issue.
Feeling great. Ime should have been Coach of the Year. Tatum's an MVP candidate next year. Celtics are going to be perennial 1 seeds until the day I die. I've got nothing to worry about. I think Brad Stevens has constructed the best roster ever constructed in NBA history, besides the Dream Team.
Drink the Kool-Aid, man. Drink the Kool-Aid.
So, yeah, put me in Jonestown. I'm chilling.
It's a slightly more realistic take. The Celtics are the finals favorites. They're going to win the finals. I said this at the beginning of the beginning of the playoffs. We did our playoff prediction.
We only have to play 8 more playoff games, Andrew.
It's true. It's true. In the best case scenario, of course.
Only case scenario.
Okay. The Jason Tatum Game 6 elimination game performance is going to go down in history, especially because they backed it up in Game 7. I loved the way they're moving the ball today because early in the series, in Game 2, they just shot the Bucks out of the gym, and the question after that was, is this offense sustainable? And I hated the lazy take of, well, you're not going to shoot that well every game. You're not going to shoot that well every game, but, I mean, the open looks they were getting, they did every game. And this game was very clear because Grant Williams was getting open looks all night long.
What did he shoot, 23s? Did he make it 20?
He ended up shooting 18. He was 7 for 15 at one point, and then he was just chucking at the end because the entire team was.
Finished 7 for 18, 27 points.
Do we know if Luka broke his record?
I believe he did not.
I don't think he did because Luka sat. So
yeah, let's go.
The Grant Williams game happened today on the anniversary, I believe the 5-year anniversary of the Kelly Olynyk game.
That is hilarious.
And we're not going to compare which game is better or worse. We're going to live in the moment here.
We are.
The Celtics.
We can appreciate greatness without
before this playoffs, I looked at the playoff picture, and I noticed, and everyone's kind of caught on to it by this point. Last year, the Celtics lost to the Nets in round 1. This year, they beat the Nets in round 1. 3 years ago, they lost to the Bucks in round 2. This year, they beat the Bucks in round 2. In the bubble, 2 years ago, lost to Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. You got a chance to beat them in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Mm-hmm. It's the redemption tour.
It's the redemption tour, baby. And then we get
and
to
it's
play
just getting started.
one of the best empires of all time.
Potentially.
Potentially do. Or one of the best up-and-coming players of all time.
All time. He's an up-and-coming player.
One of the greatest young players ever.
Okay.
At the start of a career.
Okay.
That's inarguable.
That's fair.
Yep.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Any more quick, before Mike gets all, let's go all in on the Bucks. Any final takes on the Celtics here?
I'm just very proud of this team.
Me too.
I considered our playoffs successful after we swept Brooklyn.
Did you?
Because I really wasn't sure how far we could actually go. And the fact, I felt satisfied after that.
Oh, interesting.
And I knew that we were going to play the greatest player to play the game right now.
In the world, yeah.
He's the best player in the world.
You phrased that a little suspect. He's the best player in the world right now.
So we were going to play the best player in the world right now. I might have underrated the Chris Middleton injury a little bit, but the people that are saying, Chris Middleton was out, first of all, Rob Williams was out too, who was arguably our most important rim protector. And also, the games we won were one of them was by 6, 2 of them were by 25 plus, and one of them was by 16.
The Celtics could have won 6 of 7 games in this series.
So you tell me that Chris Middleton comes in and we're not the same team we are defensively. We're not going to create the same threes we're doing. Like, the scheme was to leave Grant Williams open. Chris Middleton's going to listen to the screen whether or not it's him or whether or not it's Bobby Portis or Brook Lopez. So say what you want, but I just don't want to make sure the Celtics success is undermined. But very proud of the team. I was ready to give up on Marcus Smart. I was ready. I was really ready after.
He bounced back in a big way.
He bounced back like Kawhi Leonard's lucky shot.
I look at the fact in Game 6, forget about the threes, the 7 turnovers, no assists. Or 7 assists, no turnovers.
Yeah, no, that was Chris Paul's stat line.
Yeah. It's interesting that you thought this season was a success after sweeping Brooklyn. I thought to be that good in the second half, and I'm just looking, it's like, okay, they're not going to get significantly better by acquiring new players. Like, it would just be internal development. Like, this is your chance. Like, if you've been that good for the entire second half of the year, you're that dominant defensively, you have Jason Tatum, one of the top 5 players in the NBA. You have Jaylen Brown, who's a great number 2. You got a great supporting cast. And especially once Chris Middleton went down for Milwaukee, you had to beat Milwaukee. They just had to.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
We didn't plan this, so I apologize that I cut you off.
Go ahead.
We're just talking hoops. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
What's your top 5, then?
Top 5. Giannis is in there. Now, I'm not going to do this in order, by the way. Giannis is number 1.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Giannis is number 1. Mm-hmm. I would put... I'd still put LeBron in there.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant.
As you should.
I would put... Steph Curry in there?
I would put Steph Curry in.
I'd put Jason Tatum in there.
So no Embiid or Jokic.
I would take Tatum over Embiid and Jokic right now.
Really? I would too,
So-
actually.
The playoff success speaks volumes right now. That's the thing, is he's in the middle of an incredible run, and this is not going to look that crazy in about a month from now. It's not going to seem that crazy. Luka's close. Him and Luka are close, but Tatum is just at another level defensively compared to Luka.
But here's the thing with Jokic, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think Jokic is just a better basketball player, and the Luka thing is close. I agree with you on that. But I also feel like that Embiid can reach a more dominant high.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
I'd rather have Tatum.
I would rather have Tatum over
I'd rather
Embiid.
have Tatum, but I don't know if that necessarily makes him a top 5 player.
I also am
Do you
projecting a
understand?
little bit.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
I'm also projecting a little bit, thinking about what's going to happen the rest of this playoffs run for the Celtics.
So I'll weigh in on this. If he wins the title, I wouldn't necessarily agree with you, but he can make that claim, right? Like Joe Burrow had the year he had this year, carries that Bengals team to the Super Bowl. He gets to now make the claim he's among the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the league, whether or not he is. Now, I think Tatum is in very short order going to be that. I think we've talked about a Kawhi Leonard comparison. I could go as high as the ceiling of Kobe Bryant. Like, I am incredibly impressed with what he's done. But that's a little bit of kind of recency bias, living in the moment.
That's fair.
I think Sam's right. Overall, as a basketball player, I think he's still not quite to the caliber of some of these top level superstars. But, I mean, to the extent that a 24-year-old can make the claim that in this loaded of a league he's a top 5 player, he's doing what he's got to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just think, I'm not going to get into each player. I just think there are certain players that still, I think, handle a lot more responsibility night in and night out. They don't quite get the support from the rest of the team or the coaching staff that he does, and that would, in my mind, qualify them as being better overall players. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want to rain on the Tatum party because I was as impressed. I think I said this to you guys, and I was rooting for the Bucks in this series, right? I think I said this to you guys during Game 6, is that's the most impressive performance in the playoffs by a youngster we've seen since LeBron's Game 5 in Detroit. It didn't quite reach that level, but arguably no playoff game ever has, right? But it was that caliber-ish of a game in terms of Milwaukee got right back in that game. They cut that thing to 4, and he answered every single time with jumpers, and they weren't even sniffing the rim.
Oh, he didn't hit rim for
He
the
was
entire
just-
fourth quarter.
Just cash.
That's true.
Now, if you're all right with it, I will use this to launch into my certain feelings about Milwaukee. So, one thing I'll say quick, Sam, is you're way undervaluing the Middleton injury. I personally think Milwaukee wins. Now, you guys can certainly make an argument that Boston still wins. I don't want to just discard that because I think it's still incredibly close. We're talking about a team's second best player in a star-driven league who's a perennial all-star and has been their perimeter closer now in the postseason for a couple years. That is a devastating loss to occur against arguably the best or second best team in the league right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Milwaukee saw themselves as the best team, they're playing the top contender in the East. All of a sudden, your Kobe to Giannis' Shaq in terms of role is gone. That's not to be slept on. You can't underplay that injury. That's a massive injury. You are right that Boston probably could have taken care of the series quicker, but let's not downplay the Middleton injury. Now,
honestly, the biggest thing that it would bring would mean that Grayson Allen plays less minutes.
Seriously, I mentioned that in this game. Like, he's out of the rotation.
Yeah.
And I have 3 things to gripe about with Milwaukee.
Go ahead.
First off, I don't want to hear any Giannis slander after Game 7. He ran out of gas.
Yeah.
He played the most physical defense in the league, absolutely carried the team through 7 games, and just once the barrage of 3 started coming down in Boston, he was cooked. He just ran out of steam.
Still put up 20 and 20.
Which is 25, 20, and 9, and we felt like he disappeared. That's incredible. Okay, so my 3 gripes with Milwaukee, I'll start off and get out of the way. Grayson Allen cannot be played in the playoffs. Not only is he bad, and I've harped on this time and time again with conversations about NBA players, a lack of self-awareness in this league will kill you. Not just individually, but it will slaughter your team's chances. Grayson Allen, every time he came in the game, thought it was Grayson Allen time. He thought he was a freshman at Duke again, and Coach K's giving him the green light to take over the national championship. Grayson, that was damn near a decade ago at this point, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was just absolutely, I think, 8 years. Like, the lack of self-awareness he showed on the court was insane on offense. There were possessions he was in the game where he's running action, and Giannis and Jrue Holiday are not involved. They're just bystanders. That cannot happen in high-leverage playoff games. Then defensively, he's a complete liability, which we knew. There's no reason to really dive into that. But he was a minus 29 in Game 6, in a game at one point after he was done playing was a 4-point game.
Yep.
So I can't believe, I mean.
That's almost impressive.
It's almost impressive. They were literally playing 6-on-4 when he's in the game. Like, he was so bad. None of us like Grayson Allen, so we could just spend an hour having fun with this. He was abysmal.
Andrew and I were cheering whenever he touched the ball.
Oh, yeah, no,
it's a wasted
check
possession.
into the game. It's like,
let's go.
It's a wasted possession, and that will lead to the next part. I'm going to point the finger at Jrue Holiday for this, but it's really a largely Bucks issue, mostly outside of Giannis. They waste so many offensive possessions with garbage shots. And Jrue Holiday, look, give him his flowers for his defense. That sequence at the end of Game 5 was incredibly impressive. I think he has a tendency to step up and make timely plays in big games. I don't want to discount that. But over the course of a series, this was especially evident with Middleton out. He is a abysmal decision maker. It's atrocious. There are certain stretches of games in this series where he's just jacking up the most ridiculous shots, and he's a good shooter.
That's the thing.
Repeatedly during the series, we're watching games, and I'm talking to you guys. I'm like, it feels like every time he sets his feet and gets a good look,
I feared him when he got good looks.
He buries it, but he takes some atrocious shots. And we were talking about this today. Every time out, coming out, hopefully Bud's drawing something up. Now I'm going to get to him in a second, but it was a bad Jrue Holiday shot.
Every
just
time.
Repeatedly bad shots, and Boston is not a team. Their defense is too good for you to waste possessions that are unforced errors in terms of shot selection. They might as well be turnovers. You're not getting looks at the basket that are going to produce points and produce. You don't have to score on every possession. But you have to create the threat of offense to open up other things. And he just wastes 7, 8, 9 possessions a game with shot selection. And it's crazy to me that this caliber of a player in this spot is allowed to get away with that without seemingly the coach saying anything, the players aren't saying anything, the media nationally, all they do is praise him.
So my theory about this is Coach Bud proved us he's an incompetent coach. Is there a chance he said, Chris Middleton's out, Holiday, you get to do the Chris Middleton impression?
No, that's exactly what happened.
And he gave him the green light for it?
I'm sure that happened, but this was evident in the playoff run last year too. If you watch the Bucks closely, it wasn't as bad because more possessions are controlled by Middleton.
Yeah.
But there were plenty of times. I watched that Suns-Bucks series closely, as I'm sure we all did.
Yeah.
It was to a point where I didn't want him to touch the ball. His value was almost entirely in what he did to Chris Paul, and you cannot understate that in that championship run. No. But there were points where you're like doing the thing you guys do with like Marcus when he gets hot, where you're like, no, Marcus, chill. Like, let's slow it down, run some offense. And it's like Drew's like, nah, it's chucking. Like, at some points, it's worse if he gets one to go down because he thinks he's got it rolling.
The one green light means 1,000 more.
It's tough. It was tough, man. I personally think he was, aside from great defense as we expect from him, he really hurt the offense. Now, Bobby Portis had his moments of just bizarre green light shooting. Grayson Allen, we've mentioned, was terrible. Yep. I thought Connaughton actually played his role really effectively. Brook Lopez was all over the place, unplayable in Game 7, which gets to the last point. And I think the most important one, Budenholzer is one of the worst in-series adjusters I've ever seen.
It was unbelievable.
It's unreal. I mean, the guy is, I don't even know how to describe it. We criticized him heavily last year. Honestly, if Kevin Durant wears a normal-sized shoe, he probably gets fired last year. But in Game 7 tonight, it was the most obvious. And I know their strategy throughout the season has largely been bait teams into shooting threes. But at some point, you have to come out of it. And you have to adjust. And you have to have a plan B for if a team is hitting threes. Mike, because it's one game. This isn't a series where you can bank on a team not having a hot hand again. This is Game 7. This is it. You're giving Grant Williams, who shot, what did he shoot, 40, 45% from three this year?
Yep.
One of the highest percentage shooters in the league. They treated him like he was freaking Draymond Green or Ben Simmons. They had Brook Lopez camped in the paint, and they left Grant Williams wide open in the corner, And the guy got up 18 threes because they were wide open
Every
threes.
single one.
They were great shots. And he buried 7 of them and put them away.
Yep.
And you mentioned game 2. There were stretches of games 5 and 6 where it was the same deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mentioned this to you guys earlier off air, but as much as we want to praise Tatum, he didn't once send a trap his way. He didn't once blitz him. Mm-hmm. There was never an attempt to get the ball out of his hands. No one else had it going.
Yep.
Jalen didn't have it going. Smart didn't have it going. Just get the ball out of Tatum's hands, and he was content with Wesley Matthews and Grayson Allen playing him one-on-one, which is absurdity to me.
I had fun watching it.
Oh, I did too. It was a blast.
Look at us.
The defensive adjustments I'm really harping on because I think they were just atrocious.
Which ones?
Good point.
Yeah.
The lack.
The one defensive adjustment they made all series was they came into this game and said, Grant Williams, Derek White, we are going to leave them open and let them shoot. And when Grant Williams was hitting his shots, Coach Bud said, we're going to continue to let him shoot. And he continued to hit his shots. And Coach Bud said, we're going to continue to let him shoot.
And he continued to hit his shots.
I mean, this is like high school levels. I've played in high school games where you go in with a game plan like that. If a role player is going to beat you, he beats you. Well, if the guy starts beating you, you come out and even if you don't trust it as much as you trust your initial game plan, dude, you got to adjust. You got to try something. The game's getting away. The season's getting away from you. And then, I mean, the lack of inbound plays is pretty evident. That's pretty obvious.
Opposite Ime.
I was going to say, it's a pretty obvious way of perceiving coaching and the effectiveness of coaching. Ime clearly had the upper hand in that. And then, I don't know if it's Drew or Mike or Budenholzer or whatever, but the offense was atrocious outside of just give the ball to Giannis and let him play bully ball.
Yep.
Hell, if the refs call a few more charges, the Bucks probably get swept. I don't want to take away from what Boston did because they played a defending champion in an incredibly tight series. Everyone on that team, we talked about this earlier, everyone on the team had a moment. Mm-hmm. Jason Tatum took over multiple games. Jaylen Brown took over a couple games. Marcus Smart, he had some poor moments, but he also came through when it mattered. He shot really well in Game 6. And outside of Giannis, and Drew had that one spurt at the end of Game 5, which is more unforced error than it is him. The rest of the Bucks had nothing, and Budenholzer had nothing for him.
It was it was just total incompetency.
It was
from the head coach.
It was insanity. It was like Steve Nash level crap we saw in round 1.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Now, speaking of total incompetency, the Phoenix Suns today.
Oh my God.
Christopher laid an egg.
Oh,
Christopher.
My God. Was that some of the worst basketball I've watched in a while? That was so at one point at halftime, the Mavs were up. I forget how much they were up by, 30.
It was 57-37 at the half.
57-27 at the half.
Yeah,
and Luka himself had 27 points at the half. The Suns were taking bad shots. They were turning the ball over. Mike was pointing this out during the game. It felt like every pass they were throwing was getting deflected.
Every single one.
Devin Booker wasn't shooting well. He was hunting for fouls. He wasn't trying to score.
Devin Booker's bad.
And the Suns they're done.
Dusted.
They're cooked.
Bottled.
They're cooked. Because Luka Doncic is a great player. That team's only going to get better every year.
The Suns, more like Luka's Suns.
Good one, Sam.
Great one.
You really got him.
I wrote it on the board.
The crazy part about the series was that every game the home team just rolled. And then in Game 7, it looked like it was a Dallas home game. It was... I don't know what you guys...
It looked like a Dallas shoot-around.
Yeah.
It was the most abysmal team performance. And we'll get to Chris Paul and Devin Booker in a minute in terms of stars. But as far as a team, you can't even... The only other game I can think of off the top of my head that I've watched that was that bad was the Game 6 for the Rockets when Harden had like 13 turnovers. Yeah. But that team didn't have nearly the expectations this one did. That team was supposed to go out in the first or second round or whenever they did. Yeah. This team's supposed to contend for and win the title.
They told us they were the best team in the league. They had the best coach. They had a proven winner and a young, flashy guard and a center you can build a franchise around.
I believe the center you could build a franchise around was your thing.
That was my thing. But what I learned is it's probably the biggest massacre in the desert since the Stormtroopers took care of Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
Oh, my God. And the Jawas.
All right, Jawas. Rip the Jawas. But that was so bad. I was a Chris Paul apologist up until the series. I was like, oh, he's just never been in a good situation, yada, yada, yada. got unlucky, happened to play the Bucks when he finally gets into the finals, and oh boy, to lose it like this. The CP3 is a winner / it's okay that he's not a champion. The rest of his legacy makes up for him not having a ring. That's done and dusted. That's it. He's gonna retire in the next 3 years. They're not gonna pay Ayton. Devin Booker's gonna go back to being the worst possible version of Jason Tatum. He's gonna turn into C.J. McCollum with a higher usage.
No. Don't disrespect C.J. McCollum.
Suns are done.
Jason Tatum is who Devin Booker thinks he is take earlier today.
Yeah.
Was one of my favorites.
Yes. That was really good.
Because Devin Booker thinks he's this dog, this Kobe disciple, this guy who steps up when it matters, has that killer. And Tatum put that on display for the whole world in his last 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And Booker just melted.
And my biggest issue with Booker is there's no work ethic defensively.
No, he's atrocious defensively.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, it's actually kind of comical. Like, Jalen Brunson was just taking it to him.
But when you say Kobe's your idol, and then you do that, you clearly just don't have the mindset where you want to actually, like, put your team on your back.
I think he's a prima donna. I mean, we can hark back to the video of him bitching about double teams in pickup. That was hysterical.
Yeah.
I think Kobe even commented on that. Like, man, all right, work on how to beat double teams. Like,
I noticed there was one particular point in today's game. They came with a double team, and he basically just gave him the ball.
Yeah, a few times, actually.
Yeah.
Threw a few interceptions in there. Looked like Tony Romo in a big game. Just picks all over the place.
Devin Breaker.
There's so many angles you can go at this with Phoenix. I mean, it's such a disaster. This is like a franchise-altering disaster.
Yeah.
They now have the issue with the owner on the horizon that everyone kind of blown to the side because of the season. But to go out in an absolute comical fashion is just...
With no excuses.
No,
that's the biggest part.
I don't want to hear anything about Chris Paul. I don't care if he came
in the middle of the game in the broadcast, they start talking about, well, he's 37. You know, he might be feeling it a little bit. And it's like, I'm sorry, this is a team with championship expectations. You didn't think about that before the series started.
He literally took 8 shots in the entire game.
Well, the first round was a love letter to him. The way he closed out New Orleans, he was fantastic.
He took, like, their last 12 shots, was responsible for their last, 25 points, and now he's just lost all motivation to, like, he can get to the elbow and hit his mid-range shot anytime he wants, and he just doesn't seem like he wants to do that.
I'd be interested to see if there was an injury behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Just because it was such a marked difference from how he played in the last round, but...
It was a meltdown, yeah.
I don't know, man. Even if you're out there at some point, you have to try to exert yourself. LeBron last year in the playoffs, you watched the games and you saw him attempting to exert himself, to flex his playoff muscles and be the LeBron James we come to love and expect, and he just didn't have the step. He had the ankle injury that plagued him all year. I think he was a little run down, but legitimately he was hurt and he didn't have the step, but he at least gave you the effort of trying to carry the team over that hump without Anthony Davis. Chris Paul, I mean, I don't care if you're a pass first point guard or not. There was no aggression. And now he has as abysmal a history of melting down in big moments as anybody. I mean, we talk about Harden, Westbrook, whoever we want to talk about. Chris Paul's right there with him.
He cost me my parlay tonight, too.
He did. Brutal. And it was a fun parlay, too.
It was a hell of a parlay.
So I got a question for you guys about Chris Paul. I just thought of this off the top of my head. So, very different style of player. But we talk about how Russell Westbrook is a very effective player on a team with low expectations, often young players, not necessarily a ton of talent around them, and he's able to come in and bring a spark for whatever reason. Often, or not for whatever reason, because of his energy, right, and his ability to kind of carry the team statistically. And a lot of times it's good enough to get you into the playoffs, but you just have to taper your expectations once they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, Chris Paul, if you look at it, has a very similar history in terms of everywhere he goes, he wins. And he does seem to do it at a higher level than Westbrook does.
I think dramatically higher level.
Yeah, I'm not debating that.
Like, he turns poverty franchises into finals contenders.
Okay. That's true. I'm not debating that he helps turn them around. But at some point, do you question, or do you at least poke similarities in between the two players in terms of, yeah, they're going to get you to an extent, but there's a ceiling here. And the reality with Chris Paul is it is just not a title. That's not the ceiling. Your team is not going to get over that hump with him as your lead guard.
I agree with that, but with Russell Westbrook, you don't trust him to lead your team to win a game. Like, he'll get you within close, and then for his entire career, the last 5 minutes of any fourth quarter is going to be some of the least self-aware, intelligent basketball you've seen. So with Chris Paul, he brings this culture to a team to enact this sense of pride, the sense of winning, not women. With Russell Westbrook, he just brings media attention. I think if you look what he did with OKC, I was beyond impressed by that. He was so good that they had to Horford him. They said, "You're not allowed to play anymore. We're not going to get the draft pick we want." The Phoenix Suns had the longest postseason absence stretch of all time. He comes in, and within a year, they're a finals favorite.
I'm not arguing that he wins at a higher level. I think it's because of his team-oriented game.
I agree that you're not going to win a finals with either one of them. Okay. But I also don't think you're going to win games with Russell Westbrook. You can at least change your culture with
I don't
Chris
think
Paul.
Now. Sorry, I want to specify that. Not now.
And
what he did in the last few years in Oklahoma City.
But even when he was an MVP candidate, it was 44 wins, and they were a 6 or 7 seed.
Yep. Yeah, but to be fair, the team just lost Kevin Durant. They didn't have a lot around
those
them.
teams were worse than the teams Chris Paul's.
Yeah.
I know, but what Chris Paul did in OKC was more impressive.
He lost in the first round.
Yeah.
It was not a good Thunder team, but neither were the teams Westbrook had.
Yeah.
Was it more impressive? Sure, but not. The result wasn't.
Chris Paul's one of the most intelligent basketball players of all time.
I don't disagree.
Everyone that plays with him says that guy's a future coach. Russell Westbrook, everyone that plays with him says that guy is probably the dumbest basketball player I've ever played with.
Go ahead, Andrew. But
I was just going to say the difference is with Chris Paul, that's the thing. He's the most intelligent basketball player of all time. Point guard. He just knows how to go in and win a game. And then you get to the playoffs, and he melts down.
The result's the same. I'm not arguing that the difference in method is there and that he's a different quality and higher caliber player. But the end result's the end result,
This is why it's ultimately almost even more of an indictment on Chris Paul is because the play drops off in the playoffs. Versus with Russ, I don't know if the play necessarily dropped off. I think it just caught up to him.
Yeah. Everyone else's play.
Exactly. And this Phoenix team, in the finals last year, they're up 2-0, and then in some of those games where they lost, Chris Paul had some pretty bad turnovers at the end of those. Really bad. And so...
series-ending turnovers.
Yeah, but I don't think you can say that, look, Russell Westbrook, he got bounced in the first round. Chris Paul, he got bounced in the finals because they didn't win a championship.
That's one time.
They're the same.
Russ got to a finals.
Yeah, that's one
Russ
time.
didn't lead a team to a finals.
He was a hell of a driver.
Yeah.
He wasn't the best player.
Yeah.
But you can argue Devin Booker was the best player.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
No one.
But
he
had a co-star.
He had MVP votes.
He had a co-star, though.
Yes.
He did not do it alone. Neither of these guys have done anything, as no one really does.
Exactly.
Unless, LeBron takes you to,
no guard is
wherever.
doing anything alone.
No guard is doing it alone. But I'm more speaking to... you can bring the guy in. He's going to resurrect a dying franchise in some manner, but there's a ceiling to what he can do, and you're going to fall short of expectations if you set them too high. And because Andrew's right, because of the way Chris Paul does it, it's much more effective than Westbrook does as a team. Mm-hmm. So he might get an extra round farther. But it's more of an indictment, at least in my mind, because he plays winning basketball until it's time to win, and then he plays Russell Westbrook basketball, and it's a meltdown. Russ at least gives you everything he's got every time he's on the court.
That's fair.
And he's going to fall short because of limitations in his game, not because he underperformed.
That's fair.
So I'm just speaking to I'm trying to throw out similarities with Chris Paul. This is one of the worst high-level Hall of Fame playoff performers we've seen recently in terms of guys we consider all-time greats at their position.
What would you say about the same thing about James Harden then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
The only difference you could argue for James Harden would be, and Chris Paul was on some of these teams, you run into the Warriors.
So, but are we just going to do this for all guys that couldn't actually win in the postseason?
No, it's
so it's Charles Barkley.
It's
Malone,
the level.
Stockton,
It's the level of play. It's how they lose, and that's the thing with Chris Paul. Was it 5 blown 2-0 leads in playoffs? And your whole thing is you're up at the end. Right? What is a point guard really good for at the end of games? You're up. He's going to control the offense. You're going to execute. You're going to get enough buckets to hold on.
Yeah.
If you're up 2-0 in a series, that kind of relates to that. Like, you have to be able to control the game.
It's just a more macro version.
Exactly. And time and again, he just doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And that's and in series where he should do, like this series, they're a higher seed. They were the most dominant team in basketball for the entire season. And they're Game 7 at home, and they were a puddle.
No, I completely agree with that. You watch Russell Westbrook play, even in his prime, and you watch Chris Paul play in his prime, and it feels a little disrespectful to compare the two.
I think you're missing my point a tad.
No. I'm agreeing with your point. Okay. I see what you're saying. They're both.
I don't want to make an apples to apples comparison. They're different players, different styles. Chris Paul seems to do it at a little higher level, but ultimately, the end game's the end game. And honestly, with Chris Paul, it's a hell of a lot more painful because at least you have expectations.
That's the difference.
Guys, he melts, man. Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't talk about James Harden, but
yeah.
And I think in this series,
8 shots.
In this series, if you look at the games, like starting Game 3, assists to turnovers was probably about equal.
And this is a guy who we're routinely like.
Remember that stretch? It was like, however, it was like 37 assists to 4 turnovers at one point.
We're in March. We're in February, and we're like, hey man, did you see Chris Paul had 14 assists, no turnovers tonight? And we're like, yeah. That's what he does. Point guard.
Yes.
Point guard starts getting thrown around.
And then it's not like the Mavs have these like incredible perimeter defenders to put up against him. No. Like it's not just going against Drew Holiday. Like this was he was scared of the spotlight. It wasn't the defense that got him.
So I think we can quick question. If you're Phoenix, what do you do from here?
Get a new owner.
Yes.
Some say they found one already.
So the question here is, what do you do with Ayton? Because as horrifically disappointing as this was, you're not upgrading Chris Paul and Devin Booker.
No.
Not objectively. So what do you do with Ayton? What do you do with some of the role players? I don't know. It's so hard when you have a team that it feels like has gotten this close.
Yeah.
Only to fall short seemingly because of things outside of your roster construction.
And Ayton was admittingly a little Rudy-ish.
He's soft.
He's soft, but he also was not very effective in the playoffs.
No, that's what I mean. We get in the playoffs and guys get big. He had freaking Maxi Kleber on him this series. Man. Come on.
At one point, they panned to him in like the early fourth, late third in today's game, and it was like 3, 4, and 3.
Yeah, he did this against the Bucks last year, and everyone's like, well, it's against Giannis. And it's like, sure, that is true. But he has flashes. Like the Lakers, he dominated last year. He was great in Game 1 of this series. He was great against the Clippers last year. He has flashes. We're like, oh, my God. Like, talent-wise, the touch, the post control, the presence is phenomenal.
Maybe he should hop back on the PEDs.
He just disappears.
Yeah. So they all disappeared.
The entire team disappeared.
Into the
but
sand.
Ayton's now done it.
Yeah. This is like Ayton's thing.
Booker, I mean, I don't want to be the asshole who dances on people's grave, but it was significantly satisfying to see Luka just put him down.
He walked around like he was the best player in the playoffs.
Yeah, and he has for a while. He has the LaMelo Ball factor to him.
Yeah,
where there's just something that just doesn't sit right.
It's like you've act like you've done something
when you have
exactly when you haven't. Yeah. And the only thing you have to speak to is probably what history's gonna show. It's a pretty fluky finals run.
Yeah.
And then a meltdown.
Because the interesting thing is, when Chris Paul ultimately retires and Devin Booker is for sure the leader of a team, what happens?
We saw what happens. They never made the playoffs.
Exactly.
They're done. I commented this on some random Instagram post because I was hot after Game 5 of this series when Booker's giving Luka all the Luka special crap.
Yep.
Someone was like, these two legitimately hate each other. This is the NBA's next great rivalry. And I jump on the Twitter fingers and I comment, false. Booker's going to be in the lottery for the next decade as soon as Chris Paul steps away, and Luka's going to be contending for and winning titles. It's not a rivalry, man.
Yeah.
That's like the way that Ohio State and Michigan's been a rivalry for the last 15 years up until now. One's just the flashy kid who people know the name of and doesn't do crap.
Careful.
While the other's actually in the title picture year in and year out, slugging it out with the top contenders to win championships. Booker's not on that level. He's never going to get there.
Yeah.
But it's still like, I mean, you want to be that guy? You want to be Kobe? Show up.
Look at Tatum.
That was pathetic.
That was.
Anyone who considers themselves a leader of that team or organization should be thoroughly embarrassed.
On the other hand, Luka Doncic is a hell of a basketball player.
Yes.
offensive engine within himself.
He is.
Yeah, he is.
He's the best we've seen since LeBron. LeBron's still going, but the only player I can think of since I've started watching that is an effective offensive engine onto himself. James Harden was in the regular seasons, but we can scrap that because he knew crap in the playoffs. But in the playoff time, I mean, if he makes the finals, guys, this is LeBron's 2007 finals run. That's what it is.
Yeah.
If he wins it, hell.
So,
I mean,
yeah, Dallas has a bright future, I would say.
they do. I am looking forward to multiple Tatum-Luka finals.
They gotta surround themselves with good people, or else they might be getting a. I've decided to take my talents to the Cream City note shortly.
I wouldn't put it past them. Dallas is a pretty well-run organization.
No, I agree.
But we'll preview
We're gonna
Warriors
get to
Mavs.
We'll talk more Luka.
Let's do Warriors Grizzlies fairly quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Like, Ja goes out. At that point, you kind of just knew it was over. The Warriors probably still win the series regardless, but you don't really know. It's their best player.
It was pretty weird that like the Grizzlies without Ja went from being like America's team to the team that no one liked.
The problem is once you lose Ja, Dylan Brooks becomes the
Yeah.
star of the team.
Yeah.
He's the runner of the show, and no one likes Dylan Brooks.
He's calling out the Warriors for being old and how they're at the end. And
It's like that's fine, but like don't do it after you've lost the series.
yeah.
Like I don't know, it's a weird thing to start like if you lose a series and you start going like, all right, we'll be back next year, like we're gonna go improve.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, they're old, they're gonna like.
Yeah, you start disparaging them.
Yeah,
You just say, we'll probably see him again next year. We'll be a year better for it, and we'll see what happens.
Exactly. So, now let's focus on the Warriors though. Sam.
Can we talk about the Air Wiggins 5-0 run that sealed it?
Okay, never mind. That was a bad idea. Mike,
No,
the Warriors.
Fine. Game 6 Clay's back, baby.
Yep.
That was impeccable to watch. Ben Posman somewhere's rolling over in his grave after saying that Klay Thompson was not a top 30.
Tough weekend for Ben
tough
Posman.
weekend for Ben Posman.
What's his name on Twitter? We gotta
King Jammer.
King Jammer.
We gotta out you, Ben. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Give him a follow. You'll find his tweets by having terrible Celtics takes.
I mean, they're
But-
Skip Bayless-esque, but
Anyway.
Yeah.
that's not the point. I don't know what to really make of that Warriors-Memphis series. They were gonna win anyway without Ja. My biggest takeaway, honestly, long term, is I'm worried we're going to get another Derrick Rose situation with Ja where he's just going to wear down. I really hope we don't because he lives up to it in the playoffs, which was really exciting. But he's a small, frail, thin guard. Those don't tend to last long. So we'll see. I don't want to get negative and jump on that. But I don't know. In terms of the Warriors, they took care of business. I'm almost a little embarrassed for them at parts of that series.
Yeah.
They front run like no other team has ever front run. And I fully support trash talking, celebrating, dancing on your opponent's grave. But you're the champ. You're the 3-time champ. Like, you're the heavyweight, man. Like, you ousted a couple kids who beat you by 50 in one of those games without their best.
When before the game, you're asked, hey, what's going to happen this game? How are you going to win? And they're talking trash before the game. They go.
And they get wiped, and then they come back and they win the next game. Memphis is on their home court. Memphis is cooked.
Yeah.
And they're celebrating like this is championship basketball. This is what we do. It's like we know.
It's
Congratulations.
like we get it. You've had a couple tough years. You've had some injuries. You guys are back. This is the expectation.
But it's like boo-hoo. Like everyone has setbacks like that. Like come on, act like you've been here before because you have.
Yeah.
You're the preeminent dynasty of this era. Like let's act like the champions we all see you as. If you win the title, go all out, man. Like, go nuts. Front run all you want. But this is an expected win. There's a little bit of, like, trash talking your little brother.
One thing.
It's like how much you really get out of it.
It's really fun, but.
It is. Yeah, they enjoy it. That's why they do it.
At Ben Posman. But one thing I will add about Memphis, and I talked to Andrew about this a little bit, is when they play without Ja Morant, it's clear that they're a very talented team. They have the guys to do it. When they play with Ja Morant, it's the same thing, except their style of play changes. In a way, because he'll dribble the ball in the backcourt so much that they almost slow down, and they kind of lose what gives them that, like, everyone's here for, like, their own, or for, like, a collective reason type identity. And it's not a slight on Ja at all. But I think there is something to be said where instead of using him in the Luka type role, where it's like you're going to be the orchestrator of the offense and everything's going to go through you, you use him as like a Steph, where he can bring the ball up the court, but you can also play him off ball and use the threat of him to space the floor for other guys like Tyus Jones, who has proven that he can kind of like run the offense of a decent team.
I agree with
you gotta
that.
mix. You at least got to mix it in a little bit more.
You don't have to play him off ball 100% of the time, but you go like 70-30, 70% of the time he's playing on ball.
Yeah.
I think that could be fun for them.
I agree. I think there's a certain, and this is a dynamic we've seen in the NBA plenty of times, right? Team loses its best player or one of its best players, and for whatever reason, there's a little bit of kick to him.
Well, you in theory.
Yeah. But I think part of it is there's a little bit of stargazing that can go on in the NBA and in basketball in general. Anytime you play with a great player, especially when things get tough, you look to your guy to carry you through. And it can weirdly detract from the abilities of the people around them because it's like, oh man, like Ja is doing all this. He's scoring 35. I better hit my shots. Like I can't can't screw him. And then you kind of tighten up. Whereas he's out, you're supposed to lose. You're playing. There's a real element to sports of playing loose with no expectations, no pressure. And that is honestly when role player type players play better. I mean, I've watched LeBron James for a decade now in the playoffs. There are role players he's played with that have tightened up in his presence. Where LeBron James has you deep in a playoff game that you probably never saw yourself in, and he's doing everything he can to keep you in position. And you're sitting there like, oh, man, I better not F this shot up.
Yeah.
Ball comes to you, clean corner, Kyle Korver in the finals, clank. George Hill at the free throw line, clank. There's some element of that, and then when that's taken away, you can play a little freer. And I think we saw it with Memphis. I
like that a lot.
Yeah.
That was very good.
Memphis also is just full of great surrounding pieces for a star.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah.
So, when I was looking back at the games they won, a lot of those teams were, non-playoff teams. They're borderline play-in teams. They weren't at full strength. But, if you watched it, it's like, okay, yeah, they play well, even without Ja.
No, but I don't want it to be an indictment on Ja at all.
Yeah.
I think it more shows that, Ja is a crazy talented guy who they can play really well with when he's their guy, and they also have a lot of talent around him, and they just have to figure out how to bring them together.
I agree.
Yeah. And it's clearly something
styles,
where they'll work together to do it. It's not like, does it work? Does the pairing work? Yeah, it works. It's just they're still young.
And I think your point of we've been throwing around this term being your own offensive engine. The only player that's ever really done that, Magic, you could say a little bit, but he didn't carry nearly. But he didn't carry nearly the scoring load.
Yeah.
The only player that's really been the system, when he stepped on the court, everything offensively ran through his pace, his style of play, is LeBron. He's the only one, not the only one that's done it. He's the only one that's really consistently won at a high level because of it. Mike and Kobe both flowed through a Phil Jackson system, right? Kevin Durant and Steph Curry flowed through a run-and-gun Golden State system. Tim Duncan played as part of a system. There wasn't that kind of slow down, everything runs through one guy. And we can talk about this when we preview the Golden State Mavs series, but it concerns me a little bit for Luka that seems to be how he plays, because if for whatever reason he's off or the other role players aren't stepping up, you're not left with secondary options because everything is that one player.
Yeah.
And I think at some points in LeBron's career, the titles he won, he got away from that a little bit more and let a second star have periods of times where the offense flowed through him.
Yeah.
And then times when some of his greatest achievements in carry jobs were, it felt like they were so centered on him, and for him it was because they didn't have anybody else.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a tricky thing to kind of describe and explain, but to your point, I don't think they should try to make Ja the Russell Westbrook or the Luka Doncic or the James Harden or LeBron James offensively. Let the thing flow a little bit more and intersperse portions of Ja taking over. It'll be much more effective.
All right.
Speaking of players that aren't able to lead teams.
Oh, God.
So James Harden's bad at basketball now.
Yeah.
Our guy.
Yes.
Our adopted guy.
Yes, we've all become big James Harden fans.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Oh, long time.
There was a moment in Game 5. Jimmy Butler airballed. Harden came down, hit a signature step back three. There was some life.
We thought the beard was
There
back.
was a sliver of hope.
There's
in
a
Game
sliver of
5.
hope.
It was a marvelous moment.
It was a game 4. I don't know whatever game it was. Game 4 or 5, whatever it was.
We
4.
should have known he
It
was
was
playing
4.
in Miami.
It was 4.
4.
He had a great night. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Well,
He got off the court and had a ball, but
2 of them.
I feel like with Miami, like they were supposed to win this series, especially with Embiid out the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Embiid just, by the way, all props to him for
hats
fighting
off to
through
Embiid for
all
that, yep.
fighting through all those injuries.
Never done a rag on a player that.
It exerts
Exactly.
himself.
Yeah.
Everything he had, he
Yes,
gave
he
to
gave.
the team. He didn't shoot well. Fine.
Fine.
He gave you what he
Does
had.
yeah.
I heard a bunch of people talking about like there's like obviously they broke their orbital bones in different ways that wasn't playing on an NBA court, but they're like, it hurt to like look side to side. Like Embiid at one point said after like 3 days was when he was finally comfortable looking at his phone again.
Yeah. He had a concussion too.
Yeah,
dude.
no.
Yeah,
He was
no,
absolutely rockopotamist. And but
He was
no,
what?
Rockopotamist.
Nice.
Okay.
But no, kudos.
I mean, we'll get to Miami when we talk about the Eastern Conference Finals a little bit more. But
They're
I
so
want to focus
boring.
on where does Philly go from here. They're bringing Doc back. Harden's going to be back because he's probably going to accept that player option for, what was it, $47 million?
I would.
I have a
47 more than
sneaking
he should have.
suspicion. Sneaking suspicion.
And then he's going to ask for the $200 million extension. But
Yeah.
And here's the issue: is as long as they have Daryl Morey, they're going to have James Harden.
Now, so here's what I think the issue is for them right now is Tobias Harris. That's like Harden. Okay, like you're kind of stuck with Harden.
Yeah.
You would like to sub out Tobias Harris because there was this weird like moment this playoffs where everyone's like, oh, he's going out there, he's giving you 18 points, he's giving you 5 boards, he's giving you a few assists. It's like, great. They're paying him max money to do that. You can get that from a lot of guys.
I don't know if it was one of you that sent me the tweet. It might have been one of Ryan Russillo's. But it was like, when you need 24 points a game, Tobias Harris is going to give you 17.
Yeah.
And when you need 17 points a game, Tobias Harris is going to give you 17.
Yeah.
So that's not max money. That was probably one of the most. It's just one of the more funnier deals in NBA history.
oh, it's hilarious.
It's more hilarious than like
hilarious.
the John Wall deal or the Russ deal, where that's just bad. The Tobias
Yeah.
Harris
Bad, but
one's just-
also the John Wall one was unlucky. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, he got
premier
hurt. Yeah.
player,
Yeah.
and he had 2 catastrophic injuries.
Well,
But
yeah, at the time it was good.
this was not. Nothing went wrong with the player. He just
It's just at the moment in time where they did it, you're like, huh,
Yeah,
why?
but here's the issue: if they pay James Harden, he's washed now. He's going to be making $60 million a year as a 38-year-old.
They are not going to pay James
I
Harden.
can't imagine.
You
Be-
can't.
They don't have to pay James Harden, by the way, because no other team will pay James Harden.
Exactly.
No, but I look at it as like, okay, if Harden was their third guy, and he was meant to be just a playmaker, right? And then you have Embiid as your first guy. You find a different second guy, and then you have Maxey as kind of your fourth guy, your spark plug.
Yeah.
That could kind of work. That
There's
could probably
something
work, right? Because Harden, as bad as he was offensively from a scoring perspective, he was diming, as Sam Posman would say.
He was diamond.
Mike, what were you gonna say?
I think in terms of where they go from here, they're unfortunately in the position where I agree. If James Harden's your third and your playmaker, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
We saw a little bit of this in the playoffs. I think they're gonna have to bank on Maxey being the 2,
Yeah.
and that he's gonna elevate. And we saw moments of it. Now I don't think he's the type of player that can consistently deliver that. I think especially once defenses start adjusting to him being the premier perimeter threat, but they have no I mean, they're like Lakers-esque in terms of flexibility. They got nothing. No one's taking that Harris deal, literally, unless like maybe they offered it to the Lakers for Russ. But you're not taking Russ
No,
on.
you're not.
So you're stuck with Harden for at least one more year if he opts in. And then, Andrew, I agree they shouldn't pay Harden. They probably won't. But you gave up a lot to get him.
Yeah.
You have the guy in his corner. Of all the guys in his corner, you have Daryl Morey as your general manager, right? So you have a James Harden supporter there. There's rumors about Doc's going to keep his job, but D'Antoni is in the picture for some reason. Like,
Where's he right now?
He's an assistant for Brooklyn.
for Brooklyn, yeah.
Gotcha.
So
That went well.
that won't happen this year, but it's always tricky when you give up a lot for a player and they're on an expiring deal, and then you kind of feel handcuffed because if you let them walk, you gave away all that for nothing. But
I don't necessarily think they have to let him walk. I think they can just get him at a lower number.
now, if that happens, if he comes out next year and plays like this for a season, I think you're right. I think they'll be able to get away with it. Number. But God forbid he steps up a little bit in the regular season and has another meltdown. I don't see it happening. Yeah. Physically, I think he's shot. But it's just a lose for them. And poor Embiid, who, like it or not, is an injury brittle big man. Those guys don't get healthier. We need to get past that. He's going to struggle with this the way Anthony Davis does. You have to have a team and structure around him that allows you to survive the first 2 games without Joel Embiid, because you're going to have those moments, right?
Yeah.
So poor Embiid's going to be stuck in the middle of this. His prime's more than likely going to get wasted due to it. They don't have the capability to bring in another running partner. And the fact that this duo was getting compared to Shaq and Kobe after 5 regular season games in 2022.
Oh, boy.
It makes me sick as a basketball fan that there were people getting paid to talk about sports saying that. I love Kendrick Perkins, man.
Yep.
But you could not be more disrespectful to 2 of the top 10 greatest players of all time by comparing them to 2 top, Harden's maybe a top 35, 30 guy, and Embiid is we're not even going to talk about it. He's not even a top 100 guy, whatever. Who consistently flame out in the playoffs and aren't reliable. Yep. Like, how do you... I don't know, man. That was ridiculous. But it was another disappointing finish for Philly, and they're screwed.
They are. They are...
And of all the cities for this to happen to, I don't feel horrible.
No, I don't. I don't
feel horrible that those old Philly scumbags are stuck watching this playoff abomination.
It's a real shame.
They've had a special time enough.
Now, I am no fan of Boston, Massachusetts either, but Philly is lower on the list, so they could suffer.
Is Miami the most boring, least talked about 1 seed of all time?
Well, yeah, because they're not that great of a 1 seed.
Yeah. I mean, they're
it's like, cool.
They're just there.
Like, the Celtics would have been the 1 seed if they didn't, for like 2 weeks at the end of the year after Rob got hurt, start benching guys and sitting them in back-to-backs and all that. Let's preview that series.
Okay.
Let's preview that series. Again, it's round 3 of the redemption tour for the Boston Celtics and Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. And these 2 teams are very similar.
Yeah.
But you look at Boston has, in my opinion, I mean, they definitely have the best player in the series. I would argue they have the 2 best players in the series.
I think they have the best, but I see what you're going.
I think I look at it at least, and it's like if you get to the end of the series and Jaylen Brown is the 2nd best player,
you wouldn't be surprised.
You're not surprised.
You're not surprised, but I do think going in it, Jimmy's elevated to a significant level this year. I think that's a little disrespectful at this point.
But then you go from there, and it's like, oh, who's their 2nd wing? We're going Tyler Hero to Jaylen Brown. That's not close.
Tyler Hero is just a pure 6th-man scorer.
Yeah, exactly.
You have 1 superstar on the series, Boston.
Yep.
You have 2 bona fide stars, 1 for each.
Yep.
And then you have a very similar role player layout, but I would argue Boston's are a little bit better.
Yep.
Miami's a little deeper, but depth past your 8th guy. If you're not injured in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't care that Duncan Robinson's shoved back on the bench. Like, hey, if they need him, Duncan Robinson, you don't.
If they needed him,
you're not going to need him, man.
Exactly.
Like, you got your 8 guys, you're rolling with them, right? Yeah. Grant Williams at this point is PJ Tucker, but better.
Yeah.
Just a little less experience, but he's shooting the ball. You can't argue that. I don't tremendous amount of respect for PJ Tucker, but
Longhorn legend.
Same role.
Both from UTs.
Right. Now, I think I said this to you guys earlier. I think Boston wins. I don't think they're ever really threatened to losing the series. Now, I could see it going 6. I could see Miami taking a game early, one of these first 2, probably the first game. I mean, listen, Boston literally just went through maybe the most physical playoff series we've seen in a decade, and they're going to have a quick turnaround and play in Miami. Yeah. So, a little bit of energy in the arena, role players get going. Boston might be a little fatigued there. So, Miami takes a game. Celtics go up 3-1. Miami stays alive at home in Game 5, and Celtics win it comfortably in 6.
Yeah.
I could see the series playing out some way in that, but I think Boston wins 5 or 6, and they roll right into the NBA Finals.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
I just think it's going to be similar to that. I don't really – I feel like this is weirdly like a series where it's tough to predict. Like, if someone told me it was going to be a grueling 7-game series, I wouldn't be surprised. If someone told me the Boston gentleman sweeps them, I wouldn't be surprised either.
I would be surprised if Miami wins.
That I would.
Absent of injury. Even if it's tough, I think Boston wins.
The thing for Boston is they're coming off of for all intents and purposes, for how good he is, they locked up Kevin Durant. For how good Kevin Durant is.
You cannot do a better defensive job on Kevin Durant.
Giannis in this series shot low 40s percentage-wise. He was shooting mid-50s all regular season. I thought ultimately they did as well of a job on Giannis as they could have done.
And part of that is playoff deflation, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of that's playoff deflation. Part of it's just he got gassed.
Yeah.
But, like, okay, they went up against Kevin Durant. They went up against Giannis. And now you get to Miami, and it's like, okay, Jimmy Butler. We can do Jimmy. Like, the confidence right now for them is so high.
I agree.
And they can be so locked in defensively. And they don't have to all at one point be there are clips from the Brooklyn series where Kevin Durant touches the ball, all 5 guys are looking at Kevin Durant.
Yep.
You don't have to do that in this series. You can focus more on your own guy and just play solid defense. And that, I think, is going to go a long way.
I like that a lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's nothing that, like with Giannis, if Giannis is matched up against Grant Williams, there's a plethora of things he can do to get by him.
Yeah.
If Grant Williams is on Kevin Durant, he can just rise up at any moment. If Grant Williams is on Jimmy Butler, it's like, okay, we can take a deep breath here. Like you said, everyone can kind of focus on their guy a little more. And not to undermine Jimmy.
Exactly.
But, like, if it's going to come down to Jimmy Butler ISO scoring on one of the better forward defenders in the league.
We're talking about 2 of the greatest talents of all time in Durant and Giannis. So it's really no disrespect to Jimmy Butler.
And now we have a rim protector back, right?
Yep.
So
the one thing I'll say, and this would be the only angle I could see Miami being effective against a defense that, like you said, has taken out the 2 best players in the league, is it is a different dynamic when you can, to an extent, die a death of 1,000 cuts, and that everyone can take a little chunk. You can take Jimmy out, and the offense isn't going to grind to a halt. It's
true.
Yeah.
It can flow through other players. And we talk about the depth, and I think I'm correct in saying that it doesn't matter once you get past the 8th man, but those 8 matter a lot. And almost all 8 for Miami can hurt you in some way. Now, P.J. Tucker can't really, but if you have 4 offensive threats, legitimate offensive threats on the floor at one time, and then a guy like Tucker, that's not really going to hurt you. So we'll see what happens with Kyle Lowry. I know he's been banged up, but I think they're more kind of just playing it safe because they knew they were going to beat Philly. So see if he's back. Oladipo and Hero are 2 guys that can go give you between 15 and 25 off the bench on a given night.
Yep.
Probably not going to do it together, but there's some scoring punch there. Jimmy Butler is going to be productive. He's probably going to hit some big shots at some point. And Bam, right, do everything big. I'm not saying this to say they're more talented than the Celtics, but it can be weirdly easier to focus your attention on one guy and live with getting beat by other people. With Miami, you can actually get beat by the other guys. They're a good player. They're more like Spurs-esque in terms of, like, they have a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
No one who terrifies you, but if you're not careful, and that would be the term.
But you wouldn't be surprised if we got the Kyle Lowry game tonight. Oh, we got the Tyler Hero game tonight.
Yeah, that can happen to you, and you pile up. We see in the playoffs, man, you steal a couple games. Yeah. It's the NBA. So that would be my only thing for Boston. Just needs to keep the laser focus. That's it.
That's it.
You're on a mission. You're on a mission to win a title.
Business trip.
You have business to take care of. This is a team that beat you before. You're out for blood. Take care of business. And if they do that, they're not going to have any problem with this Heat team.
No.
Anything to add?
I think that's perfect. Celtics in 6. That's my prediction.
I like that
Celtics
too.
in 6.
I'll roll with that.
Yeah. And I also think one thing to keep in mind is just, as you mentioned before, the battle that they just went through. That's that will pile up, and you'll see it in a game or 2 of this series.
Tatum might gas out in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'll say is he's been great. He has not faced a pest like he will with P.J. Tucker. I'm assuming they just put him up in his business. Yeah. And they're saying if Jaylen Brown can beat us 4 times as the lead dog, so be it. Yeah. I don't think that's stopping Tatum, but PJ has a history of getting on people's skin.
The one thing is, in the Bucks series, it was really hard for Tatum to get to the basket because that's how the Bucks play defense, and they didn't adjust from it.
It will not be in the series as much.
It will not be as much of an issue. Not to say Bam Adebayo is not great, not to say that the Heat aren't a great defensive team, but Tatum will be able to get to the basket a little bit more. Yeah. If PJ Tucker's defending, he'll be able to get around the low block area and do some work there. So, Western Conference Finals. Warriors, Mavs.
Warriors in 6. I mean, I think Luka's great. I don't think he's a dynasty killer. I think this Golden State team's trying to be locked in. They've had I mean, they've won. They should have had this opportunity for the last 2 years, and they were robbed of it. So I think this team's hungry. They understand they're kind of coming up against their wall in terms of like how long they're really going to have together. Draymond's standing up there. I think their role players outperform the Mavs role players tenfold in this series. And it comes down to is Luka can go for 60 a night, but Klay Thompson and Cum Bucket and Air Wiggins, and they've got the better coach, they've got the better fans, they've got just a better situation, literally from 1 through whatever. Luka can be the best player in the series. I still would take Steph Curry personally, but I don't think it's going to matter.
You can't take Steph right now over Luka. Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't. But fine. We just got a coward going to bed, but Celtics in 6, Warriors in 6. So great minds think alike, apparently.
Bingo.
So, do you want to say your?
Oh, I kind of agree with Sam, because we saw it in this series, by the way, against Phoenix. At least at home, Dorian Finney-Smith, lights out.
Fantastic.
Reggie Bullock, basically Ray Allen.
Yeah.
In Phoenix, they're G Leaguers.
Yes.
And that's the issue. Whereas with Golden State, I think you expect a little more consistency. For example, like Kevon Looney, he's going to go out there and get rebounds. Mm-hmm. That's consistent. Jordan Poole's scoring seems really consistent right now.
I forgot about Jordan Poole. I knew it was. Jesus Christ, they're done and dusted.
One interesting thing to note is against Memphis, who has Jaren Jackson Jr., Steven Adams, they have guys down low that can rebound. I think the Warriors out-rebounded them last game by a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Kevon Looney finished with 19 rebounds.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dallas underneath has...
Well, they're a lot smaller.
Maxi Kleber. They're playing Davis Bertans at the 5 at times. Dwight Powell.
Powell plays big minutes, yeah.
He plays big minutes, and so I think they'll have an easier time with that.
White people.
They do have a lot of
Yeah, they do. They do. So I think they're going to have an easier time with that. And I do think there's a level of... Because as much as we talked with Chris Paul before, he has a lot of experience, but he also has a lot of experience blowing series. The Warriors, they're at a different level historically, right? They're the dynasty of this decade. So,
and they almost felt with Memphis they played with their food a little bit.
Oh, they definitely did.
Like they had their fun. I think they drove nose to the ground. They come out. I mean, I think Luka's going to be fantastic. No one should ever say, "Oh, they're going to lock Luka up." I don't think you can, but I think they can damage control, or at least say our 2 through 7 are going to outperform your 2 through 7 by 45.
We also saw it a bit in this series where it would be a close game, and then Steph hits a couple threes, Klay hits a couple threes, even Wiggins gets a 3, game over.
Air Wiggins iced Memphis.
It's going to have...
They don't talk about it.
Dallas has a harder time doing that because it's really just... Jalen Brunson's really good too. Mm-hmm. But I think with the Warriors, there's just a little bit more of like they can go on a quick run right here, either to get back into a game, to make the game look like it was a lot further apart than it was at the very end. Warriors in 6.
It'll be interesting to see how the Mavericks keep up with the Warriors' pace of play too. Because they run the floor very differently from any of the other teams they've played.
One other thing, by the way, is Phoenix was attacking Luka a lot, I think, in like screen action, especially in Phoenix. And that's one issue, right? If you wear him down in the defensive end, if he's going to be the offensive engine, defensively he can't also necessarily give maximum effort at all times.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about as well.
So, I don't know if I should. I've made enough heart picks this year, I think. I really want to go with Dallas. I really do. I think it goes Warriors in 7. My biggest problem with your Warriors in 6 is that 6 is in Dallas.
Okay.
And Luka Doncic in elimination games is a walking 40-point triple-double.
He do be.
I mean, literally, like take him out in 5 or go in 7. He's not going to lose that game, I don't think. Now, I think Dallas is much more of a live dog than you guys are potentially giving them credit for. They have a lot of lanky wings to throw at the guys in Golden State. Golden State doesn't have anyone for Luka. Like, Andrew Wiggins,
Kuminga. Yeah, no, I agree.
Throw him at him, but like...
Hey, I played Andrew and 2K with Kuminga, and Luka had some issues.
Look,
I lost the game.
This is big, and I've thrown this around.
Jesus.
I've thrown this around, but first time I'm going to put some money where my mouth is. I've seen LeBron take this team deep.
Ooh.
Okay.
I've seen him do it, and it's in a very similar style that Luka did. You talked about the pace.
Mm-hmm.
Luka gets to control a lot of that. LeBron slowed that Warriors team down a lot in 15 when he took them deep. So I think you get the old adage like so-and-so gets you one. I think Luka gets you at least 2 home games, and he's good to steal one. So
yeah.
I think he can take them 7. I think they're live in the series. Now, would I be surprised if the Warriors take them out in 6 or whatever? No, because they're a better team.
Yeah.
So it's the NBA. At some point, that's got to matter for something. But I think if any player, as somewhat of a solo act, is equipped to force the Warriors to in some way play to him, it's Luka, the same way LeBron did. And that's the comparison I'll harp on here. So I think Luka can take him deep. I think he's going to average his 35, 11, and 8 or whatever. So I think it'll personally be a pretty good series. I think Golden State probably the experience and the depth, and just they can hurt you from so many different directions. Like Clay going off for Game 6, or Jordan Poole getting hot in the second quarter, stuff like that. But
party, come shots.
Dallas plays good enough defense. They have good wing defenders. All of Golden State's offense is perimeter players.
Yeah.
We've seen Steph wear down. Jalen Brunson's a little pit bull.
Yep.
He's going to make Steph work.
Yes.
I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised if they put Clay on him.
On Jalen?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But you can run. You guys talked about running action at Luka. Run action at Steph. That's proven to work on him, right?
Yeah.
I think Draymond's still a lot of what he is, but I don't think he is quite what he used to be defensively.
Yeah.
Luka's not going to be scared of those guys. So
no.
I think he personally could probably take a lot from the way LeBron approached attacking that Warriors team, and I don't know. I don't see them as the juggernaut that they were a few years ago. And honestly, I never saw them as that juggernaut before Durant got there. I always thought they were vulnerable. So I think there's enough cracks in the foundation that Luka's going to be able to take them deep. 6 or 7. I'll go 7 because I'm going to go with my guy at home in an elimination game. But and then you get to Game 7. I think he's the best player on the court.
It's fair.
So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to stick with the Warriors in 7 because I do believe in the NBA. More times than not, the better team is going to come out on top, especially if they have home court advantage. Now, I was wrong about the Phoenix series.
And?
I didn't have belief in my large adult Slovenian cousin. So, Luka, if you took any motivation from that, please take more motivation from this. Because I would love to see you whoop Jason Tatum up and down a basketball court in the finals. But got to get over the Warriors.
Like I said, this is a really interesting test for Luka.
It is.
Because
he's going to dominate. It's whether or not he can collectively pick up the rest of the guys.
The Jason Posman test.
Yep. Which is a ridiculous.
And I also am interested to see defensively, because this is going to be something for his entire career, right? Defensively.
Yep.
How well does he play? Especially, you get to crunch time, and they're running action at him. Is he able to stay in the play? Is he able to help his team get stops consistently?
It is interesting because his whole thing that makes him so good offensively is he plays at his own pace.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can't do that defensively. You have to match what your opponent's doing. So I think that's where he's struggling.
I think defensively he's a little better than we're giving him credit for.
No, I think I don't necessarily think he's a bad defender. I wonder though
if analytics guys love him as a defender.
No, if the 35 to 40 minutes a night of being the offensive engine and having to be that guy in this series will catch up to him on the defensive end.
It could. We'll see.
So
I think he's prime candidate for the random gym pick where they took it from a convenient angle and he's got washboard abs. It's Luka's finally in shape. I think this is the summer where he does it.
Oh, this summer.
This summer,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, no. I think this
that honestly is his
clutch sports.
If there's anything he's got to work on besides free throw shooting, LeBron took the Warriors deep in those series because you couldn't play him off the court.
Luka should shoot free throws 1-footed.
Maybe.
So, anyways, that's the end of our preview. It is time for our final segment. Sam, send off by Sam. What do we have today?
Guys, I got hosed in the Kentucky Derby. I'm 0 for 19. I've watched all.
Oh my God!
I've watched all 19 Kentucky Derbies.
How were you picking games when you were 2? Did you do the little thing where you threw the ping pong ball at the?
I just liked whatever name I liked.
Okay, that's fair.
This year I finally locked it in. I was watching YouTube videos. I was learning about sprinter horses compared to distance horses and how the strategy has changed. And I locked in Epicenter to win it. And when Epicenter got smushed up against the pole to start, I was worried. They told me I was down and out. By turn 4, Epicenter is cruising, just like Lewis Hamilton in Brazil, right? Like he's winning the race. I'm losing my mind. I'm like, let's go. I didn't lose 19 in a row. I'm chilling. And then this bastard, who was a replacement horse. Technically, it was scummery because I didn't get a chance to bet on him because he was a replacement horse. I was never gonna pick him. This bastard comes in, Rich Strike, the Great American Story. Comes in and wins. I know we all love an underdog story. We don't. Right? If Miami wins the title, are we going to be happy, or are we going to feel like we were robbed of a Jason Tatum legacy moment, or a Steph Curry, or a Luka
the Sacramento
Doncic?
Kings won the title.
Yeah, with a domestic abuser, no one would have fun.
What?
Well, why are we throwing domestic abuser on this horse?
Rashawn Holmes.
All he did was show up and run around.
Yeah.
And he did a great job.
Oh, him biting the other horse at the end was
electric.
all time.
That was good.
The great American success story. The great American success story. I've been saying it all week, Sam.
I know you've been saying it all
The
week.
overhead of that race is awesome.
It is fantastic.
Like, not only were the odds ridiculous, but that horse was buried in the back, at the last stretch.
They told him he couldn't do it.
They had him down and out.
So my favorite thing about that is the owner bought the horse for $30,000 a few years ago, and he ended up winning $1.8 million in purse from winning the Kentucky Derby. If you had bet $30,000 on the horse ahead of the Kentucky Derby, you would have had to do none of the work of owning a horse, and you would have made double the money. Isn't that fantastic?
You should have bet on him. I don't know why you didn't.
Why didn't I put $30,000 on?
Like what would have $30 done?
$30 for so you do the math. So, $30,000.
Come on, history major.
$30,000 turned into $2.4 million.
Yep.
So what would $30 have done?
I don't know.
Like,
it would have made you some.
It would have made you money.
Made you some money.
You'd be
it
able
would have
to
been better than your parlay did tonight.
Damn it! It would have gone you
like $2,400 maybe.
Hey, that's at least 2 tickets to a finals game.
Or a 3-person trip to Game 7 of the semifinals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So only you were better at picking horses, man. We could have been there for the Grant party tonight.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I would just argue that was the best Kentucky Derby I've ever watched.
Oh my God.
Just the great American success story, the comeback, the jawing after the fact. Electric.
That's literally like a G leaguer coming in and going on a 10-0 run in Game 7.
It was legitimately if Kelly Olynyk did what he did, but it was in the NBA Finals.
Can we move on?
Rich Strike, man. Go ahead. Hey, you brought it up.
Strike. Anyway.
I saw some. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I saw some tweet, and it was like, if Rich Strike wins, it's like the Belmont Stakes and one other race.
Yeah.
He has a chance of being the Secretariat of Horses.
Oh.
I thought that was pretty good.
That was good.
That was pretty good.
Hey, it was a better Kentucky Derby than. It wasn't the worst Kentucky Derby. Sorry, go ahead.
This just while we're on the naming thing, for our viewers out there, CP3, Chris Paul, Point God, will now be referred to as Christopher. He is no longer deserving of any sort of moniker. It is Christopher Paul. I will accept Cliff Paul.
No, that's disrespectful to Cliff.
Or Christopher.
I like Christopher.
I think just Christopher is fine. He's got to earn the last name back.
He's got to have a playoff moment to earn just even Chris.
Okay, I'm going to reel this in.
Okay.
This was not the worst Kentucky Derby of all time. The worst Kentucky Derby of all time was when I was like 11 or something. And we all picked our horses. And my mom's horse, stumbled at the start line. And, the race is happening. It's only a 3-minute race, right? And I forget whose horse won. Probably my sister, because she always picks the favorite, like a little nerd. So she's probably
getting the job done.
She's probably excited.
Has she picked the right horse?
Yeah, she wins every year. She's boring.
What's the matter with you?
She won, right?
She was wrong this year.
Yeah, you were wrong this year.
Congratulations.
Okay.
You've been wrong for 19 years.
I reeled in my own segment.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the horses are doing their 2-minute little gallivant around the track.
Yep.
Meanwhile, it's coming out with new information about the horse that stumbled, and it was my mom's horse, and she was talking it up the whole time, and it was oh, it broke its leg, and we're oh, and then they reach turn 4 and it's coming out. It's oh, they've taken it into the blue tent. And then, like, they're crossing the finish line and saying, "Oh, they euthanized the horse."
What?
And then my brother makes a glue stick joke.
Oh
But
my God.
so the way the horses work is you can't, like, put a horse in a cast because it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So if it breaks the leg, you have to take it out to pasture.
Even in today's era?
Yeah,
That's
and the thing
terrible.
was, it was like the
That's
first.
awful.
It was the
It's
first lady. It
terrible.
was like the.
Amputate the leg.
It was like
No.
the first lady horse to like run in like
No.
30 years.
No.
No. No.
No, it was hilarious. So no, it's become a meme, but the horse got absolute bop.
It was a female horse.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was like a
no.
whole thing.
Oh no.
Did you just look it up?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't know. That's terrible though.
They can't amputate the leg? That's like 1800s
horrible.
crap where your horse breaks
Well,
his
because
leg
if
and
it's a
shoot
male
him.
horse, they don't because the sperm is worth so much money. But this horse had nothing to offer the population,
What are you trying to say, Sam?
Oh my God, rich people.
Oh.
That's horrible.
so that was funny.
Yeah, that's really funny.
All right, and
That's
before we
terrible.
go, quick update on the Liverpool quadruple hope and the Arsenal Champions League final.
Hold on. Can you imagine? They go into the blue tent. It's like, yeah, they left in a coffin.
Yeah.
What? That's so
That's
awful.
terrible. Terrible.
So the horse got bobbed.
Yeah, so what you had experienced this year wasn't that bad. Like your horse.
Your horse is alive.
Did they choke? Yeah, they choked a little bit, but
Yeah, it was bad. It was really funny though.
no, it's not.
We're only
That's
laughing
terrible.
because of the preposterous nature of the situation, but like, that's awful, dude.
Horse racing, man.
That's some
Also,
poor
hold on
horse.
a second, real quick. That's on you for putting hours of time into horse racing to prepare your bet for a 3-minute race.
I would have won $9.
That's it?
Yeah, everyone puts in $1.
How many hours did you put in?
Like one.
Sam, that's too much.
An hour for
base-
$1.
Just pick the favorite.
Pick the favorite.
That's what he finally did.
That's on you.
They were the
you,
favorite?
72 odds, baby.
Yeah, you picked the wrong favorite. Rich Strike was there on the board. With
No,
a
he
much-
wasn't.
No,
That's
it
what-
wasn't. That's the
Oh,
problem.
No. But I checked slightly before the race.
Okay. You know
That
what?
door was updated.
I'm going to once again reel in my own segment.
Go ahead.
So
Sam.
Manchester City dropped points to West Ham today, which means that Liverpool plays 2 more games, both matches they should win. They're currently 4 points off of Man City. So if City wins, Andrew's fallen asleep. So if City wins their last game of the season, they win the Premier League title.
Yep.
If they do anything but that and Liverpool wins their 2 games, Liverpool wins the Premier League title.
Okay.
It's going to be fantastic. You can at least act like you care.
Wait, so Man City only has 1 game left?
Yeah.
Where
Yes,
are they
they-
playing?
Okay.
I don't know who they're playing. Someone they should win. Oh, this is the whole thing. Sorry, my bad. They're playing Aston Villa, whose manager is Steven Gerrard, the one that slipped
Oh,
and
yeah.
never
Oh,
we know
right,
this
right.
guy.
and
yes.
never won the Premier League title. with
Oh,
Liverpool.
one of the biggest choke jobs of all time.
Yes, and he can finally win his childhood club a title, and their captain and their best player is Liverpool's one of their old legends, Philip Coutinho, who wanted to leave Liverpool, went to Barcelona, actually gave Liverpool $30 million to pay part of his transfer fee because he wanted to leave so badly. Realized he effed up and came back to the Premier League. Is now the guy under Steven Gerrard. So there's going to be some drama. Meanwhile, Arsenal shit themselves against Tottenham. All-time bottle job. It was tough to watch. Lost 3-0.
What's your team?
Arsenal. Jesus Christ. I didn't need that. Crapped ourselves against Tottenham. Sorry for the FCC violation. When the new ownership comes in, we'll have to rein those in.
Crap is not an FCC.
I said
virus.
shit, Michael.
Well, no one heard it
I
until you
called
just said
someone
it.
like something else earlier.
Anyway. So now if Arsenal wins out, and we play Newcastle tomorrow, and that I believe is at St. James's, and then we play Everton at home. If we win both those games, we finish in Champions League position at 4th. But if Tottenham wins their next game, and Arsenal do anything but win out, we don't make it to our arch rivals. So that's something to watch out for in the world of sports. There will either be a lot of silence or a lot of screaming from my Instagram stories. So keep an eye out for that for my 4 listeners.
All right. Thanks, Sam.
Are we gonna get any Stan Kroenke?
No, he invested in the team.
Yeah.
We spent $150 million in the summer.
Big Stan Kroenke guy?
That bastard. You know how he did it? Because he took out a loan. He didn't want to give us our own money. He took out a loan and said Arsenal's to pay it back in 5 years.
My favorite thing is billionaires being like incredibly cheap with like stadiums or teams.
Yeah.
Like, just pay for the stadium, dude. Like, you're worth like $100 billion.
Like the Bills owners trying to get like the state of New York to pay for their.
It makes a little bit of sense. It's Buffalo. Like, they're gonna have a team there. They should probably pay for it, but
it's fair.
All right. Should we end it there?
Yeah.
Any last words?
Celtics in 7. Sorry, Celtics in 6. Celtics in 7 was last week's thing.
I so want to eviscerate Genie Bus, but I'm not gonna do it tonight.
We'll get there.
We will.
We will.
Watch winning time. Watch winning time.
Plenty of time for that.
Little off-season drama.
Magic Johnson stock riding high after
Phil
winning
Jackson is basketball trash at this point.
Right, cool.
How do you see? Okay, no, we're not getting into this. We're not getting into this.
Just cut it. Just cut it.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be not back. Well, Mike and I might be back next week.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. Andrew and I might have some things to talk about.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. If there's any Quinn Ewers slander, any Kevin
Oh, I didn't
Durant
think of
slander,
that.
All right, well, now we're going.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Get
Gonna
writing the
make-
material for us.
Gonna make a list now.
I'm done and dusted.
Thank you
All
guys so
Steve
much for listening.
Sarkisian.
Subscribe if you enjoyed.
He's
Leave
the
a review.
greatest drunk football coach of all time.
Yeah, but it makes him a trash actual football coach.
His wife is very nice.
All right.
I'm not commenting on that.
Okay.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Thank you guys for listening. Leave a like, review, subscribe. We'll probably be back next week. Just because Sam doesn't want us to be.